On today's episode, your 2019 Spartan World Championship recap with Heather Olson of Overcome and Run. Welcome to the OCR Report podcast, brought to you by the OCRReport.com. We are the only podcast to focus exclusively on the elite sport of obstacle course racing, from Spartan to Tough Mudder to the OCR World Championships, and wherever the elites are racing, we are there. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the OCR Report. Welcome back to the OCR Report podcast. My name is Will Hicks. Thank you for listening. You can email me at willhicks@gmail.com. You can follow the show on Instagram at the OCR Report. Also on Twitter and Facebook by searching for the OCR Report. You should really follow us on Instagram, though. We had Kim DeVos, our social media team member. She handles that like a boss. She was up in Tahoe covering the race for us. She's out there with Heather Olson. You know Heather as the host of the Overcome and Run podcast. We'll talk with Heather in a minute. They did a great job covering the race. On Instagram, the OCR Report. Check that out. Let's talk about the results, and then we're going to talk with Heather about the race. The top men in first place, your 2019 Spartan World Champion, is Robert Killian. He finished the race in 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 54 seconds. In second place, Ryan Atkins. He finished in 2:12:27. In third place, Jonathan Albin in 2:13:40. In fourth place, Aaron Newell in 2:15:38. And in fifth place, Ian Hosick in 2:17:01. Sixth through 10th place. In sixth place was Ryan Woods. In seventh place was Tyler Veerman. In eighth place was Johnny Luna Lima. In ninth place was Ryan Kempson. And in 10th place was Albert Soleil. For the women, your 2019 Spartan World Champion is Nicole Miracle. She finished in first place in 2 hours and 28 minutes and 53 seconds. In second place, Lindsay Webster, finishing in 2:43:05. In third place, Miriam Goulet-Bousset, finishing in 2:54:35. In fourth place, Rebecca Hammond, finishing in 2:58:11. And in fifth, Alexandra Walker, finishing in 3 hours and 28 seconds. Your 6th through 10th place women. In 6th place, Amanda Nadal. In 7th, Ashley Heller. In 8th, Rose Wetzel. And in 9th, Rhea Coble. Rounding out the top 10 was Leanne Waseny in 10th place. Congratulations to our top 10 men, top 10 women, and to everyone else who was out there who raced. You know what? There were a lot of DNFs. There's no shame in that game. Don't even feel bad about it. It was a tough, tough course. The weather was brutal. The water was freezing. Just showing up at the start line was a win. Well done to you, and congratulations, especially to our top 10 men and women. We're going to have more interviews with the winners and podium finishers of the race, but today I want to talk with Heather Olson. Heather was on the course. She raced, and I thought it'd be good to get a quick take on the race and her thoughts on it. Don't forget, you can watch the race on Spartan's YouTube channel starting today, Monday. Search YouTube for Spartan Race. It's time to talk with Heather Olson. Let's go to the phones. Heather Olson of Overcome and Run. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
Heather, you were at the Spartan World Championships this weekend in Tahoe. You ran the course. Tell me, before we talk about the elite athletes, tell me about the course. What was your experience?
It was an intense course. So it was absolutely beautiful. Similar to last year, but they changed up the directions. Brutal course. It was really interesting because there was a lot of snow this year. It had snowed the night before to the point where they actually pushed everything back 2 hours. And so everything was delayed by 2 hours that day. And then by the time that my age group ran, it was snowing again. So the majority of the course that I ran was covered in snow, which was a really interesting experience. And they still kept the swim open. They closed Ape Hanger and Dunk Wall, which are water obstacles, but they kept the swim open, and it was brutally cold. But as long as I kept moving, it was okay because I tend to run hot. But yeah, it's definitely brutal course. A lot of very cold people, and the first 3 miles are all just an uphill climb, and definitely a championship course for sure.
There were a lot of DNFs.
Yeah.
I saw some discussion online that Spartan should have closed down the water obstacles just for safety reasons, but they didn't. They closed the dunk wall, but they didn't close the swim. What are your thoughts on that?
So honestly, I know that they have this like threshold to where they measure like the air temp and the water temp, and it has to add up to 80 degrees or something like that. And so I don't know if they did the measurement and it passed their test. I wouldn't be surprised if it did not pass their test and they chose to keep it open. Because I actually discussed this with a lot of people this weekend too. I wouldn't be surprised if they kept it open because it's a championship course and it's got to be the toughest. But I mean, for me personally, even though I eventually DNF'd, which is kind of its own story, I ultimately was okay with the swim being open because, again, as long as you keep moving and your body doesn't stop, your body heat will keep you going. And so it wasn't to the point, I think, where it was irresponsible, but it did knock out a lot of people. So I think the safer choice would have been to close it, but it's kind of it kind of depends on who you ask.
I don't think you're going to have Joe DeSena apologize for the course being too hard.
Absolutely not. Never.
I have a question about, and you're not the one I need to ask, but supposedly the standard is 80 degrees. Like if the water temperature plus the air temperature adds up to 80 degrees or less, they were going to close the water obstacles. But that doesn't seem like a 5 degree difference in the water is so much more noticeable than 5 degrees, or so much more impactful on your body than 5 degrees in the air. I don't think that's and maybe there's some science. I'm sure but it just doesn't seem like they don't add equally. They're not like equal elements to add together.
Yeah, I don't know. So they had kept Ape Hanger open for the elite athletes, but by the time the age group races came through, they had actually closed it. So when I saw the Ape Hanger was closed, I got my hopes up thinking, hey, maybe if they closed Ape Hanger, they would close the swim. But I turned the corner, sure enough, it was open. And so, I mean, again, like I mentioned before, it kind of depends on who you ask whether or not that was a good decision.
Was the swim open for everyone all day long?
I don't know about the racers after us because there was a volunteer shift that was the last heat of the day. But I know it was open for all the age groupers because my age group, the women's 30 to 39, we were the second to last wave of age groupers. So I'm pretty sure they kept it open for all the competitive heats.
Have you ever run a race in snow before?
No, this was my first race in snow.
What was that like?
Other than being very cold, it was actually really, really cool. It was like, I don't know, it was just beautiful running through like these snowy trails in the mountain, and it was just visually just gorgeous. You have to be careful though on those downhills because they were all the rocks were slick, but if I weren't so cold, I would have absolutely loved it. Like, it was really cool.
What were the obstacles like with the snow? Were they slippery? Were they icy?
Honestly, because it was snow and not rain, they weren't actually too wet, which was really nice. It was just cold. Just like the aluminum bars were just very cold. And Olympus was a lot tougher. They changed the material that they used for the paneling, and the angle was a lot sharper. And so I failed Olympus almost immediately. But, yeah, the obstacles were actually fairly doable considering the snow really didn't get them wet, which was nice.
We mentioned you host the Overcome and Run podcast. You were there covering the race, the elite race, the World Championship race. What did you think of the men's race? Very good, very intense race. I actually spoke with Aaron Newell after he got fourth, and he was telling me he was second for a lot of the race. And so what I really loved about it was that it was sort of an example of how this entire year has gone, but just very unpredictable. I personally didn't expect Robert Killian to win first place. I knew he was going to place well because he's a phenomenal OCR athlete, but
to have him win, and just the standings were just wonderfully unpredictable, which was really cool to see. It makes the sport very interesting.
So Robert Killian in first, Ryan Atkins in second, Jonathan Albin in third, Aaron Newell in fourth, Ian Hosick in fifth. Of those five places, what is the most surprising to you?
It's going to sound bad because it makes it going to sound like I don't believe they could do better, which I know they can. But I was really, really excited to see that Ian Hosick got fifth because, I mean, he's a phenomenal OCR athlete. He usually hangs around in the top 10. But to see him do that well on, in this pinnacle race was really, really exciting. Because, yeah, like I said, usually he's in the lower half of the top 10. And so to see him place fifth on the national stage was really, really cool.
Robert Killian with his second world championship. He wasn't given a lot of credit going into the race. He's a he's a former world champion. And we all know he can win races. But I don't know if we gave him the respect he deserved going into this race.
I think I will agree with that. I think we all underestimated him a little bit just because, like I mentioned, this year has been so unpredictable. I mean, there's been a lot of breakout stars like Brian Kempson, Johnny Luna Lima, just a lot of people who have kind of been dark horses that are coming up and winning, national series races. So that kind of, that shifted the spotlight onto those athletes. And so we kind of were all focusing on those athletes, and we didn't really give Robert Killian the attention he deserved. But, sure enough, he showed us all up and won first place. So
Ryan Atkins in second. This is the fifth time Atkins has finished in second place of these Spartan World Championships. He has never won.
Yeah.
Why can't Ryan Atkins win these Spartan World Championships?
I don't know. That is a question I would love to ask him myself. I honestly don't know because, as we all know, Ryan Atkins is one of the best competitors in our sport. And so I know for a while he had the strategy of just hanging back and then catching up in the last, in the back half. So I have to go back and watch the footage of the men's race, and maybe that's what happened. But I don't know. I don't have an answer to that one.
I'm not a professional coach. I'm not a professional athlete. All I am is a guy with a microphone. But I've seen Ryan Atkins, and I run with Ryan Atkins. Ryan Atkins has run past me. I feel like next year, maybe he should just go out like Nicole Miracle, like guns blazing, just be in front from the gun and just blow it, like just start to finish, first place for Ryan.
Yeah.
We know he can do it. Like he's won so many other races.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes it so surprising. But I think it's going to be great when he finally does win the World Championships. It's going to be like Leonardo DiCaprio getting his Oscar, something people have waited for so long.
And it's not like he's at the end of his career. Atkins is 32.
No.
Killian's 37.
Yeah,
Killian won this weekend at 37. So.
Yep.
Jonathan Albin in third place. What do you think of that? John won in first place last year.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see John Albin third. I would have pegged him as first or second.
He had a lot of trouble in Tahoe until last year, and last year he broke through. That was Albin has won before the race was in Tahoe.
Yeah,
but last year was his first win in Tahoe, and so Jack Bauer and I both picked him to finish first. So third's not shabby at all. It's very impressive, but we both expected him to win.
Good. Yeah. No, anybody who plays well this weekend. I mean, I had this conversation with someone as well. Like the men and women's field, those fields have gotten so much more competitive over the last few years that to get a top position in a championship race is it's a very difficult thing to do now, considering the level of competition that they're up against. And so, I mean, anybody who plays well, it's something to be admired.
Let me read you 6th through 10th place and tell me if you have any. I don't want to pass over Aaron Newell in 4th place and then Ian Hosick, we already talked about in 5th. But let me give you 6th through 10th and see if anything jumps out to you, any thoughts you have. In 6th place was Ryan Woods. 7th place was Tyler Veerman. 8th place, Johnny Luna Lima. 9th place, Ryan Kempson. And 10th place, Albert Soler.
Albert Soler?
From Spain. In 10th.
Okay. See, I need to get better at knowing the international athletes because I actually don't really know much about the woman who placed third either. So it's always fun to see. That's why I love these championship races. It's fun to see the international competition and how, they stack up against the competition that I know and follow.
There were a lot of Americans on the podiums. John Albin's obviously from the UK, lives in Norway.
Yeah.
But other than, on the men's side, other than Albin and Albert Soler, they were all Americans. Or North Americans. Atkins is from Canada, obviously.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think OCR is more prevalent over here. It's just there's a much bigger presence here in the States than internationally. I mean, OCR is international. There's just a lot more of it here.
Let's talk about the women. The top three women. In first place, your Spartan 2019 world champion, Nicole Miracle. Second place, Lindsay Webster. Third place, Miriam Goulet-Boisset. Oh, Miriam, I apologize. I'm butchering your name. Miriam Goulet-Boisset. I feel like that.
Yeah, I remember.
Silent. Miriam's from France.
Probably. I remember seeing her name a couple times because a few times throughout the year, I've been checking up on the standings, like the global leaderboard, and I saw that she was doing very well. And so it wasn't surprising to me that she hit the podium. I just unfortunately don't know much about her.
Jack Bauer and I talked about her last week. She basically cleans up internationally, just like she wins everything in France. She does amazing in Europe. Yeah. We both had her picked fourth behind Nicole Lindsay and Rebecca Hammond. She's probably the best. Zuzana Kukumova, who has won the world championship twice, is probably the best international racer, and I think Miriam's probably right there behind her. What did you think about Nicole beating Lindsay?
They're both amazing athletes, and I'm not too surprised. So I sort of called it at the beginning of the year, give myself a little pat on the back. From the start of the year, because Nicole at the beginning of the year ended up hitting a lot of these Southwest races that I am lucky enough to be able to attend. And so I saw, her performance at the beginning of the year and her winning all these races. And I just kind of got this sense. I was like, I feel like this is Nicole's year. Because she's just kind of been on a roll all year long. And I just sort of had a feeling. I was like, I feel like Nicole could win the world championships this year. And sure enough, she did. Just, I think it's just the training. I think with athletes who are like, when it's their year, so to speak, it's not only, just the training and the effort. It's also just, you sort of, with anybody in their sports career, they reach these peaks. And I think this is just one of her peaks. This is one of her peak years. I say one of because I highly doubt this is going to be her only peak year, but she just I think just everything kind of fell into place for her this year, and she's just been performing at the top of her game all year long, and it just came to a head at the World Championships. So I'm really excited for her.
We've kind of been watching her the last, year and a half, and we knew she had not potential. She's obviously a great runner. When someone says potential, what I hear is you haven't done anything yet. So we knew Nicole was good. We knew she could do it. But she beat Lindsay by 15 minutes. It was an impressive win.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm not at all surprised that Lindsay Webster is on that podium too. I mean, again, she is one of the top athletes. She's one of the top athletes and female athletes in the sport. And so I don't think anyone is surprised that Lindsay Webster is on the podium. So it's always so much fun to see those two go head to head.
In fourth place and fifth place was Rebecca Hammond. Fifth place was Alexandra Walker.
Oh, wow, really? I honestly, so again, kind of because I had my own DNF, I didn't really catch up on the results quite yet. So Alex, she got fourth?
Alex got fifth. Alex got fifth place. Rebecca Hammond got fourth place. I'm pretty sure this is
my God.
I'm pretty sure this is the best finish in a major race. Alexander, she did great at World's Toughest Mudder last year. She finished in the top 5. But I think Alex Walker is kind of one to watch for next year. I think we need to keep our eyes on her and see if she starts breaking onto the podium.
I absolutely agree. I think she is I think she's a total dark horse. I think because she is just, not only is she, a skilled athlete, she's a consistently skilled athlete. And so, you look at her resume, and she has just been so consistent in performing well. And she's, slowly, steadily climbing and placing fifth place in, another very stacked field in a championship race is a huge accomplishment. And so she's only getting better. And so I kind of agree with you. I think she's absolutely an athlete to look out for next year.
Let me read the 6th through 10th place and tell me what jumps out to you. 6th place was Amanda Nadeau. 7th place was Ashley Heller. 8th place was Rose Wetzel. 9th place was Rhea Coble. And 10th place, Leanne Wastenay.
Oh, that's so great. It's funny because there's a couple names on there. I think I had a conversation with Jack Bauer earlier this year about how Leanne Wastenay is absolutely an athlete to look out for, and one who doesn't get talked about a lot. She's just like Alex Walker. She is a consistent athlete who performs really, really well. And so she's definitely a person we should be talking about. And Ashley Heller, I think she's another dark horse. I don't think she gets enough credit because she also performs extremely well at these races. And like Alex Walker, she's only getting better. And so I think Ashley Heller is another name to look out for next year.
How about Rose Wetzel in 8th place?
Rose is, she's a Spartan legend, and I'm really excited for her that she's still, in that top 10 arena. And so it's really exciting to see that she's, kind of back in the Spartan scene. And I honestly didn't see her a ton outside of the national series races this year, but I hope we see her around more often next year because she clearly still has the strength and the skills to compete with the best of these athletes.
I think this was a great year for Rose. She had 2 or 3 very strong finishes in the U.S. Championship Series, and top 10 finish at the World Championships is not too shabby. Something that hasn't been talked about this year as much as last year is the Spartan $1 Million Challenge. The top, really the winners, but maybe the top 2, top 3 men, top 3 women from the World Championships have a chance to win $1 million if they race Greece and if they race the Ultra Championship. What do you think about Nicole Miracle and Robert Killian's chances of winning $1 million?
Tell me that again. They have to.
So here's how the rule. Here's how the rule works. The results from the World Championship, Nicole Miracle first place, so 1, and the results from the Trifecta World Championship in Greece. So if they win that, there would be 1. If they finish second at Greece, they get 2. Those are points. And those points get subtracted from their mileage at the Ultra World Championship in Sweden. So those points that they earned in Tahoe, the points they earn in Greece, will be subtracted from the total miles of the course you complete in Sweden. So, for example, this is Spartan's example. If you could do 100 miles in Sweden, placed first in Tahoe and first in Greece, you'd win 98 points. Okay, so 100 minus 2. So to win the $1 million, an elite male racer must have 98 points or higher, and an elite female must earn 78 points or higher.
Wow.
So in theory, say Nicole wins Greece also, and then she runs 80 miles or more in Sweden at the Ultra Championship, she would win $1 million. Killian, same deal, except he has to run 100 miles or more and win Greece. Now, say Killian gets second place in Greece. Well, if he runs 101 miles in Sweden, then he would, 101 minus 2, minus 3 rather. 1 plus 2 is 3. 101 minus 3. He'd win the $1 million. Now, Sweden's different than World's Toughest Mudder is kind of the race we think of for 24-hour races. World's Toughest Mudder is a 5-mile loop. Every lap is 5 miles. 5 miles, 5 miles, 5 miles.
Yeah.
Sweden is different in that the miles they're the same, but they're not at 5 miles. They might be like 6.2. So you're not going to get a perfect 100-mile, 20 laps equals 100 miles. That's not going to happen in Sweden. So,
Exactly.
and they change a little bit from year to year. So we don't even know right now. We're talking end of September, beginning of October. We don't know how many miles the course will be, how many miles the loops will be in Sweden.
Yeah.
Regardless, they're going to have to run 100 miles. The men will. The women will have to run at least 80 miles.
Yeah.
Sweden's going to have brutal weather, similar to Tahoe maybe. Maybe there'll probably be snow.
Yeah, probably.
What do you think about winning $1 million? Is it possible?
I think it's definitely, we have seen Robert Killian perform in, we've seen how Robert Killian performs in endurance races. He's a phenomenal endurance athlete. And so I would not be surprised at all if Robert Killian showed up to Sweden and won. And I can totally see him winning in Greece as well. It all hinges on whether or not those two will be out in Greece for the trifecta weekend. My question with Nicole, though, is if I'm not mistaken, has she done an endurance event before?
She competed in Greece last year. She either got first or second.
Yeah, but that's those are your standard. It's a trifecta, so those are your standard Spartan distances.
Has Nicole done a 24-hour race? I don't believe.
Yeah.
I don't believe she has. Now she did.
You know what? So.
She did the Red Bull. There was a Red Bull race she did last year, but it wasn't an endurance race. It was like, a ski mountain with obstacles and some workout stuff. That's a great question. You know what? For $1 million, I bet she'd get with Lindsay and get some tips. Get with Ryan and.
Here's the thing: we haven't seen her do any OCR endurance races before. However, that's not to count her out because look at Rhea Coble. She had never run anything nearly as long as World's Toughest Mudder, and then her first year, I remember her telling me that she just went in just wanting to see how far she could get, and she won with 90 miles. So
her first endurance event, she wins the sprint lap, and then she wins the race. That never happens. Other than Rhea Coble, that never happens.
Yeah, and so even though we haven't seen Nicole do an endurance OCR yet, I don't think we should count her out.
Yeah, I don't like betting against people. I think, although the counterpoint to that, Lindsay Webster is dominant at everything. She's dominant at toughest mudder at the 8-hour races.
Yep.
For whatever reason, it hasn't translated into 24-hour success for Lindsay. So it's not. Yeah. It's not an automatic.
Right. Yeah. It's slightly unpredictable, which again is what makes the sport fun.
On the men's side, they changed the rules. It used to last year you had to win those 3 races and get 100 miles in Sweden. Yes. This year, there's nothing about winning the races. It's just places. So if you get second place, so let's say Killian and Atkins are in Sweden. Let's say Killian wins Greece, and then they go to Sweden. We know Atkins is going to be there, not at World's Toughest this year. Let's say they, they push each other, and maybe Killian could do it. We know Killian can run 100 miles. He's done it twice at World's Toughest.
Yep.
So it would be. I think Killian's got a shot. I think Killian's got a great shot. And with the women's marker being at roughly 80 miles, it all depends on how Nicole does. We know Nicole can handle the snow. She won Tahoe this weekend, so if she can handle the 24 hours and the 80 miles, I think they both got a shot. Honestly.
Oh, I absolutely think they do. Yeah.
Well, Heather, any last thoughts on the Spartan World Championship, Lake Tahoe?
Man, what a year! What a race! It definitely, in a lot of ways, it's so funny because I had this thought while I was on the course. It doesn't have the worst hills. I think Big Bear has that. It's not the longest race I've ever done, but it is definitely one of the most difficult races. This is my second year running it, and the second year where it still rings true. It's one of the most difficult races I've ever run, just for a number of factors. And I honestly appreciate that because it's a championship race, and so it should challenge you in every way. And it really did.
2020 Spartan World Championship. Will it be back in Lake Tahoe?
Oh, that has been a very big topic of discussion this weekend. I doubt it will be back at Tahoe. However, where it's going to be next is honestly very much up in the air. There are rumors of it being in Abu Dhabi. There are rumors of it being in Killington. So who knows?
What if you got to pick? If you could make the choice, where would you put the World Championship next year?
I mean, I kind of love it being at Tahoe, but I know I completely understand why they would want to move it. I wouldn't mind Killington because, I mean, it's a legendary Spartan course. I would love to race in Vermont. So, and I mean, as we just found out, OCRWC is going to be out there next year. So why not have Spartan out there too?
Heather Olson, Overcome and Run podcast. Thanks much.
Yeah, thank you.
Special thanks to Heather Olson for appearing on this episode. Heather is the host of the Overcome and Run podcast on the OCR Report Network. Check that out. Also check out Mike and Caitlin on Obstacle Running Adventures. Another part of our OCR Report podcast family. And World's Toughest Podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as it's the World's Toughest Mudder. Go to Apple Podcasts, leave a review for the OCR Report. I would appreciate it. And follow us on Instagram, the OCR Report. I will talk with you soon. Go spend time with someone you love.